No more speculations, no more conspiracy theories. Hey guys, what's up? My name is Tom David and I am your host at TTT Tom's Tech Time, and I'm welcoming you to a new episode. Today I want to talk about the cameras of both the DJI Phantom 4 Professional and of the DJI Mavic 2 Pro. Both drones are high-end consumer drones and both are really delivering an awesome image quality, but lately there have been heated discussions on Facebook, on YouTube, in forums, if the DJI Mavic 2 Pro, actually the newer of the two drones, delivers a worse quality. There were discussions about the sensor, there were discussions about line skipping, there were discussions about overheated sensors. I can tell you something, I won't have an answer to everything, but what I will do is I will really take both cameras to the test. That is why I'm standing in front of a gigantic test card, and I will tell you which of the two cameras is the better one. Now check out the product links in the description below. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to never ever miss any of my upcoming episodes again. Stay tuned and enjoy the episode. Over the last few days, I have been heavily testing both drones' cameras, and what shall I say, I created hundreds of clips. I was sitting on my computer during daytime and nighttime for many hours. I was quite diligent. And what shall I say, I could share the results with you right now, but I don't want to, because firstly I want to explain you how this room where I tested both drones' cameras, how this room looks like. Firstly, there is no sunlight entering this room whatsoever. The light that you can see in here is light coming out of soft boxes with a color temperature of 5,500 degrees Kelvin. So the light is very clear, there is no mixed light in here. Secondly, I put together 9 single test charts to make one big test chart. Yes, that is not perfect, but I'm still not having the budget to buy one of these fancy $2,000 test cards. So you can see very thin lines here. But in general, what shall I say, it looks pretty accurate. And what is very important, these test cards do not come out of my home printer, but they were professionally printed with 400 dpi, which means that the details, for example, here inside the Siemens star are really, really nice. With my own eye, it gets really hard to see the printing lines, which is really nice. So the details are very fine over all these cards, because if I would have just home printed something myself, then I could not really say that my test has been any accurate. Of course, my test is still not scientific, but I went as close as I could. Let's get started with the first test, and before we talk about the sharpness, and that's probably what we're all waiting for, let's first of all take a look at the color accuracy. Which of the two drones delivers more accurate colors? We can see there are several colors printed onto the test chart here, and on them we find the hex code. So I can find out which of the two drones delivers more accurate colors. Ta-da! Here are the recordings. Both look alright at first sight. Right away though, both the red and the yellow colors recorded with the Phantom 4 Professional jumped to my eye. The colors look somewhat unnatural and different than on the test chart. But that is of course not how I can finally determine which of the two cameras indeed records more accurate colors. That's why I first opened the files in Photoshop, I then copied the hex code of every single color and compared the codes to the original ones. Not a single one matched 100% right away, which is totally normal. Next, I did some math to encrypt the hex code and make it readable. I compared the RGB, the red, green and blue values of the original color tone with the ones that the drones recorded. I always wrote down how many points the drones were off and then in the end calculated the difference. Immediately we can, for example, see that the Phantom 4 Professional indeed has a problem with accurately recording green, but especially with the color yellow. 101 points off of the original. That is really below my expectations. The Mavic 2 Pro struggled the most with displaying blue color correctly, even though it was only 67 points off the original value. Finally, I summed up all penalty points. While the DJI Phantom 4 Professional collected 280, the DJI Mavic 2 Pro with only 240 penalty points delivered the more accurate results and therefore wins this first category. I am aware that this method is not perfect, but it is one way to determine color accuracy, and I think that the result reflects my first initial thoughts when I looked at the recordings. We right now want to figure out which of the two drones delivers sharper results, but in order to do so, we firstly need to figure out the ideal settings for each of the two drones, and we want to get started with taking a closer look at the digital sharpness level of both drones. We're gonna really measure all digital sharpness levels from -3 up to +3 with both drones. Let's get started and find the ideal setting for both drones. The digital sharpness test unveils the strengths and weaknesses. It is evidently, and no math is needed this time. Let's briefly cover the most obvious conclusions. When taking a look at -3 at the very left, we can focus closely at the inside of the Siemens star. We'll see weird looking shapes, the lines are basically not straight anymore, and besides that all smaller details look washed out. The results are not any different when focusing on -2 and -1. Closely focus on the details and you'll know what I mean. Natural, 0, looks quite good right away. The lines of the Siemens star look accurate and straight, and the inside of it does not show any harsh distortions as on the other ones we were looking at. The fine circles are clearly visible as well. Next is +1. Everything looks even a bit sharper, the circle lines inside the 8 look good, not washed out, and the tiny stars appear crisp. One downside, the inside of the Siemens star is a bit more distorted again, but besides that, 1+ seems to be a suitable value. When now looking at +2 and +3, we immediately notice the strong distortion inside the center of the Siemens star, as well as lots of noise that gets visible when looking at dark areas. Feel free to interpret the images further, but I like neutral, 0 and +1 the best. When now taking a look at the digital sharpness of the DJI Phantom 4 Professional, the differences appear even stronger. -3 is totally unusable. Look at the details inside the upper circle of the 8. Overall, there is less distortion inside the center of the Siemens stars. The circles inside the lower part of the 8 are nicely visible when picking 0 or +1, while they look too fake when applying +2 or +3. Again, noise ruins the dark areas when picking +2 or +3. And again, I think that both neutral, saying 0, and +1 deliver the sharpest and most neutral results. Can we now compare the two drones to each other? Still we can't, because right now, after we know the best digital sharpness level, we need to figure out the best aperture. Which aperture marks the so-named sweet spot? On which aperture are the drones the sharpest? Let's check it out. When it comes to the apertures, things get a bit tricky again. On the first sight and when not being zoomed in, spotting a difference between the shown aperture values seems complicated. Let's do ourselves a favor and zoom in. At f2.8 we can see a rough distortion in the center of the Siemens star. It does not look a lot better with f3.2 and f3.5. f5.0 and f5.6 definitely and by far look both the sharpest and the most accurate. There's almost no distortion inside the center of the Siemens stars visible. Again, feel free to pause the video and judge it yourself. If you don't hit the pause button now, we'll just move on.
The Phantom 4 Professional, when not being zoomed in, looks overall good as well. But what happens if we zoom in? Let's check it out. The distortion in general seems to be less harsh than on the Mavic 2 Pro. That is what we can immediately spot. The small circles inside the lower part of the 8 look the clearest, and the distortion seems to be at its lowest level when picking an aperture of 5.0 or 5.6. Again, just like with the digital sharpness already, both drones share the same best settings.
And now is the time that we know the best settings for both drones. We can either pick 0 or +1 for both drones as the digital sharpness level, and we want to pick 5.6 as the ideal aperture. And I'm gonna really run 2 tests, one with a digital sharpness level on 0, neutral, and one with a digital sharpness level on +1. And now I'm so excited to show you guys which of the 2 drones delivers the sharper results.
Wow, the differences are brutal. Compared to the Phantom 4 Pro's result at the right, the full field of view mode of the Mavic 2 Pro looks totally washed out. And trust me, I focused correctly and recorded the same shot several times. This is an accurate comparison. The high quality mode that crops the sensor of the Mavic 2 Pro and only uses a fraction of it, which is a bummer, delivers better results though, but still, its quality is visibly lower than the footage recorded with a good old Phantom 4 Professional. If you compare the small circles inside the 8s, then you really know what I mean. And while you can still see that the small prints around the laying 8 are tiny stars on the Phantom 4 Professional, they look like, I don't know, just round dots when being recorded with the Mavic 2 Pro. Only when it comes to the noise level, the Mavic 2 Pro looks better. We should not forget that one drone, the Mavic, uses a very low ISO of 100, while the Phantom uses an ISO value of 500, which is its minimum value when filming in D-Log mode. And log colors are a must. Clearly, the DJI Phantom 4 Professional is the sharper drone, while the Mavic 2 Pro shows less noise. Let's now switch the digital sharpness settings and set the drones to neutral. Again, the results are the same. While the full field of view mode of the Mavic 2 Pro looks pretty unsharp, the high quality mode looks overall sharper already, but still gets beaten by the Phantom 4 Professional's result. And again, the Mavic 2 has the better appearance when it comes to noise. The result is clear. The Phantom 4 Professional absolutely beats the Mavic 2 Pro when it comes to sharpness, but it gets defeated when comparing the noise level. But why do the results of the Phantom 4 Professional look so much better? Is the lens of the Mavic 2 Pro really that bad? Or is it its sensor? Or maybe the processor? To me it seems that it is the processor causing the trouble. In D-Log M mode, the Mavic 2 Pro does not apply any lens correction. The Phantom 4 Professional though does. And you can see it easily when focusing on the highlighted outlines on the edges of all shown shapes. You can see that the image has been processed already inside the drone, even though we set the digital sharpness to 0. It means 2 things. First, we should be able to fix the footage of the Mavic 2 Pro in post-production by adding digital sharpness and by applying a barrel distortion correction manually. It means that owning a Mavic 2 Pro and wanting to get the sharpest possible results forces you to apply extra work on the computer. Secondly, if you want the best results with your Mavic 2 Pro, you can only use the high quality mode that only uses a fraction of the sensor. And that truly is a bummer, as the 1-inch sensor of the small drone is one of its major highlights.
Finally, I want to know if one of the 2 drones has a problem with letting straight lines appear straight, because sometimes, especially wide-angle lenses, let straight lines appear curved a bit. It looks a bit fish-eye, and sometimes that is just a bit lower classier, like it looks rather like an action camera than like a big cinematic camera. So this is quite an interesting test, and because the DJI Phantom 4 Professional has the wider angled lens, that means that I would guess that the Mavic 2 Pro is a bit ahead in this last category, but let's just take a look at the results.
The DJI Phantom 4 Professional looks clearly the best, even though the drone has the widest lens. DJI really did a great job with this drone. The Mavic 2 Pro's full field of view mode is close to being unusable if you don't feel like correcting the footage on the computer. The high quality mode is again the better choice for Mavic 2 Pro pilots, but it cannot beat the Phantom 4 Professional. If you want to find out how to set up your Mavic 2 Pro's camera for the very best results, take a look at the link in the description below the video.
Now, which of the two drones has the better camera? Of course, it now looks like the DJI Phantom 4 Professional is far ahead of the DJI Mavic 2 Professional. But I would be careful with that conclusion because of mainly two factors. Firstly, the DJI Mavic 2 Professional still has a 10-bit color profile versus only an 8-bit color profile on the DJI Phantom 4 Professional, which really makes a big difference. We have more than 1 billion possible color tones on the DJI Mavic 2 Professional. And next to that, the dynamic range of the DJI Mavic 2 Pro has really been increased to 14 stops versus only 12 stops of dynamic range on the DJI Phantom 4 Professional. Finally, I'm not quite sure what I shall tell you guys. I think maybe the Phantom 5 is going to solve it all. Maybe the Phantom 5 is going to be the drone with the better camera, where you can just really say, wow, this one is overall the better camera. I don't know yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send a letter to DJI with some questions that I'm having regarding the sensor readout of the DJI Mavic 2 Pro, because yes, it is quite bad that we cannot use the whole sensor on the DJI Mavic 2 Pro, while users of the DJI Phantom 4 Professional, they can use basically the whole sensor. Well, there are some open questions. Again, I'm going to send a letter to DJI and I will definitely publish their answer if I get one, either here on YouTube, so you should subscribe, or I will just post a blog article. You can subscribe to that too on tomstechtime.com, and I will be keeping you guys up to date with that. And right now, what shall I say? Product links to both can be found in the description below the video. Now, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to never ever miss any of my upcoming episodes. Again, and I'm really sorry that I can't tell you guys that one of the two drones has the ultimate camera, because I think that both cameras still have their pros and cons. While yes, it is quite a disadvantage how DJI handles the sensor of the DJI Mavic 2 Pro. That we cannot use the full 1-inch sensor really is a bummer, definitely.